Listen, you heavens, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth, for they will fall as rain from the sky, and as dew on the grass they will lie. For I will proclaim the name of Yahweh and tell of what rightly is His. For His works are faithful, His words are true. Ki la'olam chasdo, ki tov le'adov la'Yahweh Eloheinu, ki tov le'adov Yahweh. Give thanks to Yahweh, for it is good to give thanks to our God Yahweh. Though with their own eyes His works they did see, they chose not to follow His lead. His face He has hid from them and from us, to see what we do with our lives. Shuvah Yahweh ad matai, Anashva Yahweh. Come back, Yahweh, how long must we wait? We beg you, come back, Yahweh. Ki tov le'adov la'Yahweh Eloheinu, ki tov le'adov
We up?
Hi, y'all.
Hey, everyone. So welcome back. Dave's got it down now. You notice how he's got that video transition where people are they're coming in and they get to hear Patty sing, and so it's all working great. Good job, Dave. And if you can do that, there's no end to what we can do. We can.
And I wasn't here last week, and I really had to rethink this all over again. How did I do this?
This is a brand new day. Yeah.
You've slept since then.
Like one of the chickens that wakes up.
Plus
new every
running
day.
from the temple back over to Learning
Right,
Center.
right.
Yeah, so let me tell you guys who are watching and not here with us in person. We finished the teaching today at Temple Sinai Synagogue, and as we were packing up, we've got a good road crew. You know, Mark and Dave are really packing their end up, and John's doing some stuff. And, everybody's kind of grabbing things, and in walk a group of people. And so they were part of a tour. We live in a very small, touristy type town, and people come in sometimes on a boat. We call them the boat people. No derogatory sense implied. But they take like the riverboat cruises. Sometimes they come here on buses and visit the antebellum homes. Anyway, a group of Jewish people were on the tour. They had done their research. They knew that there was a synagogue in town, and they came just expecting to see it. And lo and behold, we're in there doing a teaching. So the timing was perfect, and I stayed over there and talked to them for a pretty good while. So it was really nice, and they had obvious questions. You know, what are you doing? And I think we won over some new friends, so it was really nice, and they had questions about what happened to the Jewish congregation, and of course some of them told me, you know, it's Hanukkah, and I said, that's exactly what I just talked about. So I think there was a little bit back and forth, like, what do you know, who are you, what are you doing here?
Real synagogue?
Is this real? Yeah, is this real? So it was very, very nice, and it always is nice to get to meet people who come to this town and they hear about a synagogue, and, you know, John and Linda and the rest of us were talking about it this morning. The fact that we now have a presence back in that place on Shabbat, I think it's going to open up some opportunities and some doors. So, but today I talked about Hanukkah and the origins, if you will, the ideas, the themes associated with Hanukkah. And I partly did that because, I mean, what else would you talk about on a Sabbath during Hanukkah? It's a good theme. It's a good topic. And the other reason is because I think there's so many different ideas that are out there, especially on social media. So what are your thoughts about Hanukkah? And you can talk about anything related to
I'm going to
Hanukkah.
go back and read the book of Maccabees, because I don't remember any discussion about the yard toy, but if you say so.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to look closely. It's in
Somebody had to
there.
do it the first
I
time.
know, I guess a bunch of them sat around blowing the tubes to keep the yard toy inflated. I don't know.
We do have, while you mention that,
Spirit blowing in.
I guess.
John did some research and found us, he and Lyndon found us this, we call it the Hanukkah yard toy. But it's really nice. It's not small. I mean, it's big, and it's set. We set it up outside. They set it up every night and open up the United Israel Center for anyone who wants to stop in. And Lyndon has done a really good job advertising on our local community Facebook page, and I noticed we had a couple of likes on there, Lyndon, so you never know.
So, people, Action News St. Francisville, join, go in, like it, bring it up. Every time you like it or comment on it, it brings it back to the top of
Yeah,
of it, and we want to see some local. Our congregation here will not grow if we don't advertise here.
yeah.
If the locals don't know we're here.
And we're not worried about the, everything growing internationally, because that's happening all by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the social media has done we live in fantastic, incredible times because of technology, and we're able to reach people around the world, so that piece is. But locally, it's a little bit tougher, and that's primarily because, people in this town, like so many towns, are sort of settled in, here's what I grew up and I'll be this until I die. And so, and we don't really have a label, so to speak. We have people who join up and they find us on the internet and they say, well, are you Christian? Are you Jewish? Are you, and you can only say no so many different ways and say, but you're all welcome. But we're biblical. We're oriented towards the ideals and the teachings of the Hebrew Bible. It's where we base our faith. And at times we find close proximity to beliefs that are espoused by Judaism. So technically we're not Jewish, though we do have Jewish people involved in our organization. We have rabbis. But primarily we just want to be there to present a Hebraic-based faith to the non-Jewish world. That's one of our primary missions. We're educational, which I thought was one of the main reasons that I thought I should talk about Hanukkah today. So what are some of your thoughts?
I needed this talk.
Yeah.
Because I was beginning to feel like, well, if I believe in the Torah and follow the Torah, I'm sort of going off the path a little here with Hanukkah. And yeah, it's a Jewish tradition, but not for all Jews.
Yeah. Yeah, you did some study this week, didn't you?
I did study this week, and I was like, okay, so the rabbinical Jews, the Orthodox, what was it? Wait a minute. I may now get this completely wrong.
It's all right.
The Orthodox
Because-
Rabbinic Jews.
The Orthodox rabbinic Jews,
Conservative and
conservative, they are strictly Torah based, or
No,
that's
no,
a Karaite. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, they're strict. They
The
do
oral
the
Torah.
oral
Yeah.
tradition. I knew I was going to get it wrong.
there you go. That's all right.
Brain. They believe in the oral tradition and follow the oral tradition. Whereas the other side of the Jewish coin,
You're talking about the Karaites, which you've
the
been studying.
Karaites, are strictly Torah. And so they won't do Hanukkah.
Can I share something with you?
Right.
When we were in the synagogue originally, remember the Karaite Jew that was coming there?
Yeah,
Rosh-
I do remember
Rosh
that.
Shlomo?
Mm-hmm.
He did set up a Hanukkah decoration thing and everything, and then he started teaching on the Karaite view of
Yeah.
this is not a Jewish
He
Christmas.
he let me wear his hat.
Oh.
Yeah, so we do have different views,
Yeah.
and that was one of the main reasons. So I wanted to talk about today, where does the story come from? Where do we get the story of Hanukkah? Because I think a lot of times people latch on to the cultural aspect of it. The latkes and the dreidel and the gelt, the chocolate, the lighting of the Hanukkah, and then they tie that to the story from Jewish literature about the miracle of the oil. But what if we really go back textually or historically, where does it start? And that's in the book of Maccabees. So.
And this is so interesting because Dave and I were eating in front of the Hanukkah last night, and we were having this discussion
Depending on
about
which
do we
candle's gonna
really?
outlast the other one.
Yeah. But we were discussing, well,
Was there guilt
are you
involved?
really into this
Guilt
holiday? What are your thoughts? And we discussed. It's like for me, I like to picture my Hanukkah.
Yeah.
No, it's like it's
Just don't
light
show 'em that video you
bringing.
made.
No, I couldn't, Dave. So don't share that
All
one.
right, all
All
right.
right. We're married. It's cool.
Oh my goodness.
What even going?
This is like,
No, it's totally blown. How am I going to talk about the light and
Anyway,
each
you're
day
lighting a
bringing
Hanukkah.
more light into
reset
the
button.
world? So that's it. It became a personalized today with this story of the rededication and
Yeah.
being uncompromised in your faith in the Torah and the words of and following the way.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main points. It's people talk about, and I tried to bring this out in my class. This idea, Hanukkah, is based on this root word that does mean dedication, and so it's really at its core about their rededication of the temple, specifically the altar, which had been defiled because they had cooked pigs on it, and sacrificed swine on this altar and done all sorts of unspeakable things. So it's really a repurposing of that which was originally intended to be holy, which was defiled and profaned and made common and worse, and then a way to recapture that. And in some ways, I think we tend to focus on the external, hence my points about right, R-I-G-H-T, over right, R-I-T-E. But right can be important, but if you're not right internally, the external doesn't matter. And one of the interesting things I should add is that every new moon, every Shabbat that occurs on the new moon, one of the passages that's used as a Haftarah reading, a prophet reading, comes from Isaiah 66. And Isaiah 66 is a very strong condemnation of external elements without the internal being correct. And so think about that today. If you have one of our Jewish calendars, please always keep up. I usually teach on the Torah portion and the prophet reading, but read that today. Read those passages that are associated, because it's not only Shabbat, which in and of itself is holy. It's listed first among the sacred times and seasons of God in Leviticus 23. But it's also Hanukkah, and it's also new moon. So there are all sorts. You'll look at your Jewish calendar and find all sorts of readings for the day. So we're going to have a lighting tonight, as you guys have entertained, even when no one else was here. Some of us are out of town, and then tomorrow from 5 to 7, anyone who can make it locally, we plan to do just sort of a fun and fellowship. One of the reasons I talked on Hanukkah today is that way tomorrow is just all fun and culture and games, that kind of, and eating, food.
Food. More food.
Well,
We're looking-
go ahead.
We're looking up latke recipes as we speak.
All right.
To me, my perspective of Hanukkah was different. Okay, I wasn't, people say, it's the lights and the celebration. There's no, that's not scriptural. There's nothing. Well, wait a minute. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. I wasn't there. I don't know. But what is documented was what the Maccabees did. Now, unlike a lot of people in the world today, and very similar to the Spartans, at 12 years old, I was shipped off to a military boarding school. That's the same age as they took the boys in Sparta and trained them. So my education grew up being somewhat military in origin.
Are you a Spartan?
Could have been.
Oh my goodness.
You had the training to be.
So
Learn something
we
new every
studied all
day.
kinds of military tactics and everything for years, and went through all kinds of training. And so one of the things early on in life, along with all tactics used from the beginning of time, military tactics, was we read a lot of stuff. One of them that was struck me as very important was the Battle of Thermopylae, where it was these are essentially Greeks, right? It's the Greeks that oppressed the Israelites in this case. But every time a battle, and I pointed this out to somebody, every time a battle or war is waged for the purpose of freedom, and freedom wins, that's what's important.
Yeah.
And so, 300 guys held off 20,000 for 3 days before they were all wiped out, and they wouldn't run. So the Maccabees stood up and said, enough. And it went on for several years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bloodshed and killing, and they didn't quit, and they didn't give up, and they held to their faith in Jehovah. And so the miracle is this little tiny group of people beat this great big empire and brought them to their knees and made them run off and leave them alone. That is a miracle.
That's right.
That's awesome. And that's one of the important things I got from you reading the story in Maccabees, especially First Maccabees, verse 62.
Yeah.
It said that some in Israel didn't do this, but many in Israel were determined and they resolved in their hearts.
Yeah.
So it took that inner conviction, like we can look at our hearts, we can rededicate coming, what's in my heart? What,
Yeah.
what needs to be rededicated?
Yeah, and I love that idea. I've taught on it a lot, as most of you know. It's an internalization of the Torah and the principles and precepts. Look, this story is gruesome. If you read
babies.
all of
Oh my
Maccabees, it starts off with the rise of this one that's called in the writing a sinful root. His name is Antiochus Epiphanes. And Antiochus is really, really the quintessential bad guy. I mean, he fits the mold. He's just evil, evil, evil.
Cold-hearted.
And yet, what we read is that whenever this edict goes forth, it's always presented. Bad guys aren't stupid, often. Often, the bad guys say, let's just all get together. I mean, all we have to do is get on the same page, and people say, "That's not what could be bad with that?" But turns out that part of that involves a walking away from or casting aspersions on what is good and holy and just, and not standing up for the right things. So, when you see someone like Mattathias, who stands up and speaks for himself and his boys. He basically said, look, this is what we're going to do. Now, the rest of you do what you want, but I'm not going to turn my back on the covenant and so forth. So it is a good story of good triumphing over bad. In fact, I saw a T-shirt someone posted, and it said, all Jewish festivals are about the same. They tried to kill us. We won. Let's eat. And if you had to boil it down, that's kind of it.
The idea of the Hanukkah, the whole thought is part of it is never again.
Yeah.
Ideas. Now, interestingly, I've been studying the Holocaust, and I'm going through a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
There's never a mention of Hanukkah in there.
Huh.
Now, this was before Israel was a nation, again, and so there is talk about the holidays, the Christmases and stuff, because a lot of the Jewish people had turned Christian, so to speak. So
Assimilated, huh?
my point is that there were some warnings that some Jewish people came to people and said, look, we can't participate in this. These people were getting gathered together to be slaughtered. They didn't really know that at the time, but
there were rumors.
They were saying, some of these guys were coming saying, let's just don't go. Let's just don't be here. Let's go. Let's get out of here. But most people said, oh, we'll be okay.
Yeah, it's not going to be that bad. Yeah.
I remember one lady's testimony was like, well, we could go out and hide in the woods, but who's going to feed us? Hanukkah is like, God's going to feed you.
Yeah.
He's going to take care of you.
Yeah, there's a beautiful picture. That has circulated from the 30s, and it's inside a home, and it's across from this Nazi headquarters. And in the window from the 30s, there you've seen it's a very famous photo. I can't recall off the top of my head all the details, but it's a Hanukkah, and it says something. This rabbi's wife wrote something to this effect. They say death to the Jews. This says we'll live forever. And so the idea is that good ultimately triumphs over bad, that good wins out, but what's not promised and what is not guaranteed is that it's going to be a walk in the park. Right. That we're not going to have trouble and very bad times at times. But that's the beauty of this Psalm 30 that we read today, this dedication of the house, the Psalm 30. And it talks about how mourning may be for the night, but joy comes in the morning. It's like you may cry for a while, but ultimately be firm, be resolute, stand strong. And that's the real story, no matter what.
Ultimately, that's what's happening in this very present age right now. Those bad things that happened in the past have made the Jewish people stronger.
That's right.
And they're real strong now. They're well defended.
But there is
Ready to take
there is
action if they need to.
There is a
That's the
price
thing.
that you pay
Ross, are you
for
looking up
that
those
freedom, for
verses
that.
in Maccabees that Miriam is
We
asking
have that.
For
about?
that privilege,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But- So when you go into the
Maccabees.
engagement, even though God may be on your side,
That's
there's a
it.
price that
Yeah,
ends up having to pay. Somebody's gonna die. You know, that's just the way it is. And all the way back to Joshua, when, you know, it was said after that fight where Moses, every time he'd drop his hands, they started losing the battle, and then they'd raise it up again. And at the end of the battle, it was like, you have to understand that from age to age, you know, you will, essentially, you'll have to fight evil. Good will
Yeah.
have to fight evil.
Yeah. And we
You have
we
to
learned that
prepare.
in the Torah. We have this passage about Amalek from a generation to a generation. There's a hand against the
Right, that's
throne.
right, yeah.
Historically and tragically, that is played out. You know, it's like in almost every generation, there is an affront to the people who associate with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's been that way from the beginning of time almost, from the beginning of them being a people, and yet they're still here. And so the idea that stands out very prominently is that God is faithful, that God will bring them through. Miriam, you asked a question about 1 Maccabees 5:52, and I think we've got a different version in front of us, or can you check that reference because I don't see Holocaust written in 5:52. Now, it generally, by the way, the word Holocaust, which has come to characterize this great effort to eliminate the Jewish people from the planet, that term Holocaust is in its real format, before it was associated with that tragedy, it means an offering, like a burnt offering, a whole burnt offering. And you can see, therefore, the connection between what the word means and how it was applied later, this tragic happenings to the Jewish people. Okay, so 452, let me look at that.
The Holocaust was horrible. I'm not trying to say it wasn't, but it's in our recent memory. It is in our timeline. There were other
Yeah.
times
Sure.
that the Jewish people that were someone tried to wipe them off the face of the earth.
Right, and
It's
this is
happened
one of them.
over and over and over and over again, and the Holocaust was just the latest.
Still happening to this day.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know.
You know.
But I don't know what you're saying in an organized manner.
as an event,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, throughout history, unfortunately, there has been a concerted effort to eliminate this people, and but in the people's favor is God, and that's the beauty of it, especially when you read through all of recorded history as pertains to this. God brings His people through ultimately.
Well, what reminded me this morning was when you spoke about the Maccabees, if I'm saying it right, the point that they were doing this over food,
Yeah,
a choice of food, where all they had to do was just say, okay, yeah, I'll eat the hot dog,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
yeah.
They didn't have Hebrew
So
nationals back
that's
then.
tied into the Holocaust thing I was mentioning, of how they were worried about who's going to feed them.
yeah,
You know, how can they live in the woods?
yeah. There was.
That's my figures.
Yeah, I mean, people were willing to, you know, because sometimes the encroachment that the enemy puts in front of God's people is somewhat, you know, I mean, what's the big deal? I mean, it's just food. I mean, you're going to die if you don't do this. We're just asking you to participate. And the idea that we get in the story of Maccabees is that some of these people stood firm and said, I'm not willing to compromise in the slightest. Something that you would consider slight is something that is considered by one who's seeking to live a righteous life to be something they can't compromise on. These are elements of the true faith. And so, but they were telling them, look, if you circumcise, if you're caught with a Torah, you know, this is really bad. They would take Torah scrolls and burn them in the fire, rip them to pieces. Now, in our day,
And they did that during the Holocaust.
yep, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yep. So you get pictures even today of people who despise the people of Israel in very, very outspoken ways, and sometimes it comes across like I don't understand how people of faith. There are people who claim to be biblically oriented who sign up for BDS,
Yeah.
you know, and which seeks to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel because they can say that we're not anti-Semitic. They say we're anti-Zionist,
Right,
but it really comes down
right.
to the same thing. They're really anti-Jewish. That's what they are. But yeah, it's really an interesting story. And even though most people might know the basic storyline of Hanukkah, I think a lot of times it's like whether a person is in Torah faith or out of Torah faith, around the holiday seasons, people tend to rely more on traditional elements and not so much the historical underpinning. You know, what really happened in those days at this season? That's what's important.
Right, the Maccabees weren't going, now we're gonna light a candle each night and
They
Yeah.
celebrated for 8
da-da-da-da, we're
days.
gonna play dreidel.
Yeah.
No, we are maintaining our faith.
Yeah. It's about liberty and freedom and the freedom to do so.
Conviction,
Yeah.
And
standing up for
conviction,
your
and we've added
convictions.
the Hanukkah,
Yeah.
we've added the latkes, we've added, you know,
The reason that I think it's important to get this underpinning historically as best we can recover it in everything we do is because I want people, it's wonderful to light the Hanukkah. And it's wonderful to talk about the legends and myths and all these things. But why 8 days? You know, and according to the story, they said, we're going to have this every year at this time for 8 days. We're going to celebrate this, and you know, and when you play dreidel can be very fun and engaging with your children, or adults like to play it too. But make sure they understand that Nes Gadol Haya Sham,
I thought that was cool you brought that up.
yeah, or
There
Po,
or here.
whether it's there or here, a great miracle occurred.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you about the miracle. And you tell about the miracle that God brought a transition from something very dark and gloomy and horrible into something beautiful.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we have to pass on. Go ahead.
the whole Maccabees and that group, because there were just,
Mhm.
they could have lived physically and done what they were told to do,
Mm-hmm.
but their spiritual being was so much more important to them. If their spiritual being died,
Yeah.
there was absolutely no reason in this world for them to be alive
Yeah.
physically.
Yeah.
You
And
know, it
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
worth
conviction.
it.
That's real conviction.
yeah, we have to. That's one of the challenges of mankind. I'll break it from the Jewish mold and say mankind. You know, when we read about Noah, it says was an Ish Sadiq Bedorotav, a righteous man in his generation. He's not Jewish. He's not, none of the things that we identify as the people of God. He's just a guy. He's a non-Israelite, a non-Jewish man. He's a Gentile. And he lives righteously in his generation. Even though all around him people were unrighteous. And we know from the story that the state of mankind had reached such a level of degradation, there was no remedy. So we have to be that person, that man, that woman in our generation.
It would be so much easier to not be.
Oh yeah,
So much easier
Just
to
to fit
do
in.
what everybody else is doing,
yeah,
What you want.
or what you want to do, or you know, it's so much easier than to stop and go, no.
yeah. Well, the reason we were talking at the break and the reason we talk about this often, we would love to have more of our local people come and join us because there's a sense of community. Look, Dave and I have done this, and Dave and Sherry and I for years and years before other beautiful people, and Mark and I. At times there are only one or two, and that's okay. But when you have the numbers and you have people, we really would love for people to come.
It's
who are close.
encouraging.
It is.
We can encourage each other.
And
in-
there's an
in our walk.
edification
Yeah.
that goes on where you strengthen one another and you have fun. You know,
And you form closer friendships
Yep.
and kinships.
that's right.
And you have someone to stick with, because when you are faced with those people who tell you oh, just do this, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Oh, just believe this, it'll be fine.
And did you see on the Facebook page the lady that was so upset because she was spending holidays with family, and then the women got together and they were all bombarding her faith, like, why do you believe this? And and they were trying to,
Caught her flat-footed.
Yeah.
So
And I,
Mm-hmm. having people to
That you can
remind,
come
that was
back
great, because I
to.
want to just make a little sheet of all those verses that everybody was suggesting.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But the point being, there's an online community too that's very, very good to
supportive.
encourage.
And it's so much easier to not.
Like I said, well, I remember in that back and forth that took place, one of our family members is basically an atheist, and led us in a Hanukkah song.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, he
It
sort
wasn't
of,
the Adam Sandler.
no, it wasn't Adam Sandler. He learned it. When he was, my brother learned it when he was 6 years old, and he said, "I learned this song when I was 6, and I have never had the occasion to sing
He
it."
said,
I
"Nobody's
love
ever
it.
let me sing it."
And I said,
Sing it.
There you
"Sing
go.
it," and he sat there in the living room
Wow.
and sang it, which totally threw my mother and my nana for a loop, because they're Christian, and
They're like, how do you know this?
yeah.
There's a closet.
So, what's that old story? I'm reminded of that old story I heard once. It was like, so the Christian guy was going visiting relatives, and all the his Christian friends later were all talking about how they got persecuted, for their beliefs. And the guy said, I don't ever have that problem. And then the story went on and on. And finally it came out that, well, why didn't you, how do you handle that? He says, well, I just didn't let them know I was a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the story.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
don't react.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of different approaches. The holidays, and especially as non-Jews are coming to a Torah-oriented faith. We have people. Everyone has people in their family that are in different places, and for me,
Right.
this is what's worked for me. People know what I believe, and they may find it strange, and they may find it whatever. They respect it though. And therefore, I allow people to have, like I don't walk into a setting and
Yeah.
go, well, this is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. You shouldn't do this. This is wrong, wrong,
Right.
wrong, wrong, wrong. I mean, it's already, sometimes I think maybe uncomfortable to have me anyway, because I'm so different. But there's something to be said about being patient and loving and kind.
Absolutely.
And not trying to just
Absolutely.
rip everything
That's
apart.
it.
Because we were all in different places at one time.
We are. And I think it's important that we, look, some people aren't at all interested in what John or Ross or anybody believes. Now, if they ask me, I'll be happy to tell them. But my job is not to be, wielding a sword and walk around and, now, if they started trying to force on me, see, here's the difference, like when you look at the story of the Maccabees.
Yeah.
This is important because some of you are going like, I'm going to be Judah Maccabee and I'm going to go whack down all the trees in the Christmas forest at the mall. Not necessary. Now, if they
Not wise either.
yeah, not wise,
They're
if you're going
already
to go
cut
to jail.
anyway.
But here's the thing: the story of Hanukkah, what they were rebelling against was a forcing of them
Yes.
to accept
Yes.
other beliefs.
That's right.
So you don't
conform-
do that either.
to conform.
Yeah, it's so look, people are going to believe what they want to believe, and they're going to live their life and probably be happy. There are some, like all of us, you who are listening and at this table, who say, I really want to know. I really want to know the truth here, and you're going to push forward. But don't try to wreck everybody else's holidays. Just do your thing, be you.
Well, and people are somewhat understand. I mean, like we have family members came in with presents, says we're going to put these around the tree, and I said, well, in the living room you'll see a Hanukkah. If you want to put them on the floor around the table, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, okay.
I said, this is like a Charlie Brown thing here.
No, they just went.
They would have really thought that if you would have seen that white, white Hanukkah tree.
So we really want. Look, it's a tough time for a lot of people. The holidays, whether you do Christmas or Hanukkah
Yeah.
or whatever,
Well,
a
I tell
lot
you,
of
all
people.
that sugar from
just-
all that fried food. Oh my goodness.
And just the commercialism of it, I'm,
Oh, yeah.
I'm finding that's going down, because several years ago, it was really getting out of hand. I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah.
It's kinda
Yeah.
leaking. But yeah, this is the commercialism.
I feel
this time of year.
released.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Don't
I feel-
you?
Amen.
Totally
Yeah,
released.
free.
I don't have that
Yeah.
burden on my. I remember Christmas Eve just in a pan. Oh, did I get everybody
Yeah,
the right present and
exactly.
enough presents and
Yeah.
the same number of presents and
Or going into debt for 6 months.
For a
and
year.
and I walked into Christmas morning, and yes, we had my family over because it's tradition, and we're certainly not
Right,
gonna go.
love.
Oh well, now
No.
you
Well, for
know,
us, it was the third day of Hanukkah. So.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's family.
She got
It's
this-
family.
she
Get
brushed,
together
she
time.
brushed,
So we have yeah, we went ahead and invited the family
Yeah, of course.
for the afternoon meal, and we had a good time. But boy, did I feel so much less pressure.
Yeah.
Jerry just gave you a high five on the end.
Well, but the intensity, there's still intensity, because,
Yes.
like, when we committed, when Lynn and I said, we want to do this, we're going to do this, and that first night of Hanukkah, the first day, she had, for the eve, she had to work, and so it wasn't time for her to get to the Capitol. I was going to go, and then it started raining, and I was
Yeah.
like, man.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time, and you put in a bulletin, we're going to be here, we're going to do our yard toy, and we're going to have stuff.
Your
Yep.
biblical yard.
Our
Yeah.
biblical yard toy. And,
You're
so
sanctified.
but we committed to that, we
Joy.
light the candles, and last night, you were here, we did the, Shabbat candle.
Yep.
Wow.
And, Ross was
Nice.
here and joined us in the prayer and everything, so it's an investment in time, it was an investment in effort, but it was
Re-
nice.
and
It was
it
fun,
was-
we played music most of the time, we had great discussions with Ross when he was here. My daughter from New Orleans came up and was with us one night, up here. So it's different,
Yeah.
it's not, the pressure, like you say, is not there.
The commercial pressure,
Commercial
and it's
pressure.
commercial
Yes.
pressure.
Yes.
You know.
So- So that's a plus aspect of being involved in the scriptures. Some of the things you do once you get into it end up being more fun,
Yeah.
as well as memorable, without having all these.
Okay,
Oh
and
my goodness!
it's
Did
8
I get
nights.
Aunt Matilda a present?
8
Yeah.
It's 8 nights.
8 nights.
So John was like, "This is night 6. We have 2 more to go." Oh.
I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
We had to get the candles straight last night.
I
and
know.
Jerry was like,
It's
"Oh,
like,
how many
is it the
candles
5th
do we
night or the
have?"
6th night?
You know, it's-
Oh,
Oh,
let me
I'll
count.
play
Wait.
that song from the
Oh, we
Shadows.
need one more candle.
Oh, yeah. I'll listen to that.
Well, you guys, though, it is nice that, one of the things that we want United Israel Center South to be is an open door to people who are finding their way. And, I think that it's important that we recognize people are going to come in, they're going to be in different places. So you don't have a checklist at the door and say, "So, Mark, nice to meet you. Can you sign? Here's a little document. Would you read through this and please just sign
He's that big-
saying that you're in agreement with me on every point?" I mean, come on, let's be realistic. But if you can meet on, are you dedicated in your search to serve God
Yeah.
with your life? You really? Would you like to learn more about God with us? We can share back and forth. You want to be friends? Come on in. that's more of the approach that I'd like to take, and not be beating people up and really just making them feel horrible about where
Yeah,
they're at personally
right.
and
Dimming
spiritually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We ought to be, again, the biblical model is that you live your life in such a way that other people look and say, I'd like to live my life like that. In the meantime, they may not want to live their life like you. They may not want to adopt your diet, your personal beliefs.
Right.
But they might start by calling you and saying, "Hey, I've got a tough time. Would you pray for me?"
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I believe that.
You know,
Ross.
and it happens.
It does. It's happened in my life.
Yep. So we have to be a light, and that's one of the main things that I want to stress about Hanukkah is, let's face it, that's a beautiful idea. It's an image where you say, who would light a light and then hide it under a bushel? I learned that as a little kid in church.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful image. Like you gotta shine a light. You have a light and you're not gonna shine it. I mean, why would you not do that? Yeah, why do you have a light for? There's a rabbinic story I always like to talk about. It's set in this little village, and an old rabbi who's blind is walking with a torch. And someone sees him, and they walk up to him, and they said, they're talking behind his back. I'm paraphrasing. I'm remembering the story as I remember it. And they said, why does he have a light? He can't even see. I mean, what difference does it make? They get up to him, and they said, hey, what's up with the torch? You're blind. And he said, oh, it's not for me. So even in our blinded state to all known things, we can still be a light for other people. We can help people with the little bit of light that we have to keep them from stumbling.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message of Hanukkah. It's stand up for what is right, be dedicated, be committed in your life. It's also about being a light, and then it's also about believing in the miraculous, that transformation from hopelessness to miraculous. People need that in their world. People need miracles, and sometimes you can be the miracle that somebody needs. That's basically it in a nutshell. And that's our life 365
Or
days a year.
at least that beginning of a hint or a lifeline where they get started on that path. You don't walk in one day and go, well, today I'm a rabbi.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not,
Right.
it takes,
I've seen people do that now. I'm just,
Yeah.
I know, but yeah, well.
Some might, yeah.
It takes years of study, but the thing is, it's like you said, you don't start out, adhering to, everything that's said in Deuteronomy 14 on what you ought to eat and not eat, but you get there on things.
Right.
And if it's all scriptural based, then it's the right approach.
Yeah.
So, Ronnie Fulcher thinks you should be up here every night burning a light in the window at the center. Not really.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. He made a
Every
comment.
night I look at that
He said,
technology,
yeah.
Probably so. I mean, you get
Ronnie,
his point.
I'm sorry, Ronnie.
No,
He
but
said
you get his
maybe a light, maybe we should let a light be burning every night in the
We
window.
can do that. We can
We're
put a
Electric.
timer
We're
on it.
supposed
Yeah.
to have
It'll
Electric
come on
night.
at
Yeah.
this
Electric
time,
light.
go off
Yeah.
at that
We
time.
don't want
As a
anybody to lose their
symbol.
insurance
Yes.
over the place burning
Right,
down.
right.
But,
right.
but
My light's been out a couple of times. I mean, I've hurt people before,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and my light was out, and it
Yeah.
just hurts so bad.
yeah.
And you want to turn around and make sure your light burns even, your light shines even brighter
Yeah, Mark.
when you notice that.
That's
Yeah.
a good point.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
it's never too late.
Never too late.
And that's the way I always view things is that's an excellent lead in, Mark. When we have friends or loved ones and we lose contact with them or we separate for whatever reason, welcome people back. I mean, just
Right.
give people room to come back. That's so important. And sometimes it's not as important. I've heard this and I've used this phrase before. You can be right and not do right.
Yeah.
Focus
That's
more
true.
on the do right, as opposed to being right. Because you can be right. Like, I know the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and you're wrong. But that's not doing right.
And that's pride.
Yeah.
That really
There's
is
a pride and an
Maybe
arrogance.
you do know it,
Yeah.
and maybe you don't.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
the thing, it just because you think you know it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I told that one lady, there's only one of us in this universe that has all the answers, And that's the same one that wrote the questions.
Yeah.
So, just be kind and be respectful of others.
Goes back to renewal, rededication.
Yep.
Focus your life towards God and everything you do,
That's right.
Yep.
and He'll be a light.
That's
That's right.
right.
And also something else I wanted to bring out about all the evil and the good in the world, that God creates evil and the good. He does both.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think you're down and all the evil's got you, who's bringing the evil on you?
Yeah.
Who's
To save
allowing it?
Who's
Who's
allowing
allowing
evil?
it?
And for what purpose? I mean, you look
Right.
at it for being, oh, this is bad only, but maybe for somebody around you, it's for the good. You never
Or
know,
maybe it's
so.
drawing and forcing us to go towards Him, go back to Him, turn around, wake up,
Right.
whatever. Yeah, you got it. That's a great point.
I've heard people talk about weather. I happen to like rain, but some people figure that rain and storm is gloomy. But without the right mix of sunshine and clouds, you don't get the beautiful flowers. So life is a mixture of both. We do have the good and the bad and the ugly and the beautiful, and we somehow, when you put it all together,
Yeah.
it equals. It's going to weigh out good. It ultimately weighs out good. We just have to remember that, because it's not always. Sometimes you mourn at night, but blessing comes in the morning and joy comes in the morning. So
God's blessed Louisiana because we get plenty of rain.
we do.
And I don't want it to stop.
That's right.
I
Had to
know
snatch
you.
a book that had a good quote in it.
Uh oh.
Let me say something. Let me say something real
ahead.
quick, because before I forget. But I think it was Dave Tyler said something about don't wait until things go bad to dedicate your life and to trust in Jehovah, but
Right.
do it when things are good, and then when those bad things come,
Yeah.
you'll go with integrity. You'll
That's a
have.
good point. Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, he shared that with us, that maybe Red Tyler said that. Don't wait until things go wrong
Yeah.
to
Well, that-
turn
a lot
to
of people
God.
forget to say thanks.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
When he pulls them out of the fire,
That's right.
yeah,
like, well, I'm on my way now.
yeah.
Yeah. Psalm
Well,
Psalm
we don't
30.
we don't want to be like the friend, we all have friends this way. We don't want to be like that friend that we only see when he's really messed up. Needs
Yeah.
help.
Needs help.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
right.
Yeah.
right.
We don't want to be that way either,
That's right. You don't want to be that guy, and you don't want to necessarily have those people around you. But remember, there are sometimes those people that are just going to call out to you when they need you, and you in that picture fulfill sort of a prophetic role. Think about how God must feel that how many countless humans only call upon God in their trouble,
Yeah,
as opposed to those, like you say, John, that just say, "Thank you for giving me another day."
me and Jerry were talking last week, and I was sharing a little story back when I was doing big time tree work and having to work with these big tree guys, and they're pretty mean, oil rig guys, that kind of stuff.
Tough.
So yeah,
Bubba's.
so
and you don't want to hear you don't hear
yeah,
the words coming out.
I was relating how a lot of times they would have conversations off to the side and stuff, but when I came along, it was like they would be careful. There was no particular reason. 'Cause I was being just as bad as they were most of the time.
I hear you.
To be honest with you, but I had to. I was telling Sherry, I said, well, they looked at me like some kind of holy guy or a religious guy, because I was.
Yeah, you were a holy roller.
Yeah, so to them, I was like their last hope sometimes,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But my point is that they looked at me that way, whether I wanted to or not.
You had
no matter
enough
what.
light.
They-
You had
they
enough
looked at
light
me.
in you that it was a stark
Maybe
contrast.
maybe I had a little glow still going. I don't know.
Little embers.
Yeah, a little ember burner.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Did you find it, Lyndon?
No, but I love this book.
What is
Wait
it?
a
Go
minute.
ahead.
Let me get the cover back on. Abraham by Bruce
Filer.
Feiler.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome book.
Mm-hmm.
I will write a review of it, but
Is
that's
it on-
it. That's the
Is it
review.
is it
All
in
right,
our
there you go.
parish
Awesome
library?
book. Yes,
I can check.
and it's on
online.
Overdrive.
Yes.
And I listened
Okay,
to
we'll
it
talk.
twice in a row.
We'll talk after
I went,
Shabbat about my library card that's not working online.
Oh, okay. I hadn't even tried mine.
Well, look, it is, it's a beautiful day.
Wow.
Hopefully you'll have a nice, I know that over the next several days, people have time off for the new year and so forth. And we intend to be back next Saturday, same time, same channel. But tomorrow, if you can come, tomorrow evening, 5 to 7, we set it up, at a reasonable time. People that can come out, they can go back home and get in bed early if they choose. But we may go longer than that. I'm just saying that's the time that we slotted. And we really intend just to get together and fellowship and eat some good food and talk. And we may or may not go live. I don't know yet. We'll take that by ear and play that by ear. But then next Shabbat, we intend to be back live, just like this Saturday and every Saturday. And January the 8th, make sure if you can come to St. Francisville for one night only with Hanoch. Now, Hanoch gets to control whether it goes out. And I think in times past, we've been able to put the class out, live stream, but not archive it, just because, he gives that talk as he goes around, and we don't want to miss that. So, but anyway, tomorrow evening, 5 to 7, right here, St. Francisville, 5925 North Commerce Street. And we look forward to seeing some of
Well,
y'all.
if you're in the neighborhood tonight, stop by and have a jelly donut or a piece of pecan pie.
Yeah.
or
There you
whatever.
go.
And tomorrow we're gonna pop that balloon out there, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
think
Oh, or you will be responsible to repair it.
Yeah, we gotta, yeah,
And I hope you can
We
make
wanna
it,
keep for
Jerry.
next year.
that's right.
All right, you guys have a wonderful Shabbat, and Shavua Tov, have a beautiful week. We love you. We'll see you
Yes.
next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Listen, you heavens, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. For they will fall as rain from the sky, and as dew on the grass they will lie. For I will proclaim the name of Yahweh and tell of what rightly is His. For His works are faithful, His words are true. Ki la'olam chasdo, ki tov le'adon la'Yahweh Eloheinu, ki tov le'adon Yahweh. Give thanks to Yahweh, for it is good to give thanks to our God.